Have you ever noticed how strange this feels? Someone tells you they earn a good salary. Maybe $70,000, maybe $90,000, maybe even six figures. And yet they still feel financially fragile. No dramatic crisis, no reckless spending, no obvious mistakes. But a quiet, persistent sense that one unexpected expense, a medical bill, a job loss, a rent increase, could disrupt everything. Not poverty, not wealth, just instability. This isn't unusual anymore. In fact, it has become normal across the United States and much of Europe. A good income no longer guarantees a sense of safety. Let's explore why. Imagine a fairly typical professional in an American city. Late 20s, stable job, respectable salary, $85,000 per year. On paper, this sounds comfortable. But salaries don't exist on paper. They exist after tax. After federal, state, and payroll deductions, that $85,000 often becomes something closer to $60,000 in take-home pay, which means roughly $5,000 per month. Still decent. Now life begins to make its quiet withdrawals. Rent for a modest apartment, $1,800. Car payment, $450. Insurance, $200. Utilities and internet, $180. Student loan payment, $320. Minimum credit card payment, $150. Groceries, $400. Phone, $70. Subscriptions, small digital services, streaming platforms, perhaps $80. Already we are near $3,650. Before dining out, before travel, before clothing, before emergencies, before savings. Add occasional social spending, transport, and basic lifestyle costs. And the monthly total easily crosses $4,200 or $4,300, leaving maybe $700 or $800, which sounds like room, until reality intervenes. Because that remainder is not free money. It must absorb irregular expenses, medical co-pays, car maintenance, gifts, flights home, a broken laptop, a rent increase. What looks stable in theory feels tight in practice. The salary didn't disappear, but the margin did. A similar story plays out in Europe, though the numbers change. Consider a young professional in London, Berlin, or Paris. Solid income, reliable employment, nothing extravagant. Yet housing costs, taxes, and transportation quietly compress disposable income. The pattern repeats. Earnings appear comfortable, but fixed obligations dominate cash flow. The issue is not simply expenses are high. It is more structural than that. Modern financial life converts income into commitments. Not purchases, commitments. A rent contract and a financing agreement. A subscription. A recurring payment. Money is spoken for before it arrives. And commitments behave differently from spending. Spending can be adjusted. Commitments resist adjustment. Once you sign, you owe. Here is where the hidden mistake often enters. Not a dramatic error, but a very subtle assumption. People anchor their lifestyle to gross salary instead of financial flexibility. When income rises, expectations rise alongside it. Better apartment, newer car, more comfortable monthly payments. Each decision appears reasonable in isolation. No luxury yacht, no reckless extravagance. Just incremental upgrades. But each upgrade converts future income into fixed cost. The problem is not the size of the payment. It is the loss of optionality. Let's look at simple math. Suppose someone upgrades their car from a reliable used vehicle to a financed newer model. Monthly cost increases by $300. This doesn't feel life-changing. Yet $300 per month is $3,600 per year. Over 5 years, that is $18,000. But the true cost is larger. Because that money is not merely spent, it is locked. It cannot become investment capital. If invested instead at a modest long-term return of 7% annually, those same flows could approach $21,000 to $22,000. The gap is not spectacular, but multiply similar decisions across housing, electronics, subscriptions, and lifestyle inflation, and the cumulative effect becomes meaningful. Financial pressure rarely arrives as a single catastrophic choice. It emerges from many small, permanent ones. Why do rational people fall into this pattern? Psychology, more than mathematics. Humans evaluate affordability using monthly framing. Can I handle this payment? Not. What level of future freedom am I surrendering? Monthly framing is emotionally comfortable. It hides long-term trade-offs behind manageable numbers. A $40,000 obligation feels intimidating. A $480 payment feels ordinary. Financial systems understand this well. Credit structures, financing plans, and subscription models are built around perceived ease, not objective cost. Additionally, social comparison plays a powerful role. People rarely evaluate lifestyle against long-term security. They evaluate against peers, colleagues with similar jobs, friends with similar incomes. If everyone appears to be managing similar commitments, the structure feels normal, even when collectively fragile. No one feels extravagant. Everyone feels stretched. Over time, this produces an unusual financial state. High income, low resilience. A household may earn far above national averages, yet remain vulnerable to disruptions. Job loss becomes terrifying, not because income stops, but because obligations continue. Expenses are not choices anymore, they are liabilities. Stress increases despite respectable earnings. Paradoxically, higher income can intensify the sensation. As salaries grow, lifestyles often scale accordingly, preserving the same narrow margin. More money, same tension. The psychological promise of feeling secure one day keeps moving forward. Now consider how financially intelligent individuals tend to think. Not necessarily wealthier, often simply structured differently. They do not treat income growth as permission to expand fixed costs. They treat it as an opportunity to widen the gap between earnings and commitments. The goal shifts from appearing comfortable to remaining adaptable. Instead of asking, "What can I upgrade?" the implicit question becomes, "How much flexibility can I preserve?" Flexibility is not glamorous. It does not signal success externally, but it changes the entire emotional experience of money. Unexpected events become inconveniences rather than threats. Career decisions carry less fear. Time horizons lengthen. Financial security, in this sense, is less about salary size and more about obligation density. Two individuals earning identical incomes can experience entirely different levels of stability, depending on how much of that income is already promised away. None of this implies that people are foolish or irresponsible. The modern economic environment actively encourages commitment-heavy living. Housing markets, consumer financing, digital subscriptions, and cultural norms all push toward continuous upgrading. The result is a society where good salary and financial security are no longer synonymous. Security is not erased, but it requires more deliberate structure than income alone can provide. Perhaps the most important realization is this: a salary is not security. A salary is merely cash flow. Security emerges from the relationship between cash flow and constraint, between what you earn and what you are forced to pay. This distinction is subtle, but it explains why so many financially responsible professionals still feel uneasy. Their income is solid. Their flexibility is thin. If this pattern feels familiar, that's not surprising. It reflects broader systemic shifts rather than isolated personal failure. And awareness, more than any specific tactic, is often the first meaningful adjustment. Because once you start viewing financial decisions through the lens of future freedom instead of present affordability, many trade-offs begin to look different. Less emotional, more structural, more about stability than status. If you found this perspective useful, consider subscribing to the channel for more calm, reality-based discussions on money and decision-making.